As much as this channel interacts with the Netherlands these days, it's kind of becoming a second homeland to us. Let's see what's in the mail. Well, hey there folks, Chuck here, and yeah, this is going to be another one of those kind of different builds. And it's actually sort of a sponsored question mark build, because I'm going to say his name terribly wrong because I cannot say anything in Dutch correctly. Sjors, S-J-O-R-S,
Sjors,
over at Sjo-Cal.
Sjors.
Again, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. In the Netherlands, saw some of our videos and asked if I would be interested in trying out one of his kits. So he's not paying me for it, but he did send me this for zero cost in exchange for my honest review. And I told him I would do him one better, and I would build the thing along with an unboxing. So hopefully I can open this without destroying it. So apologies in advance, sir, for saying your name incorrectly.
Sjors.
But I'm doing this all as we go and in real time to see what the experience is like. So things came from Europe fairly reasonably, and I gotta say I checked out his website and I love his artwork, the team's artwork. It's beautiful, and this stuff is no exception. Look at this beautiful business card here. I recognize the word help in there.
Sjors.
So, but yeah, these are beautiful, and look at that awesome sticker. That is definitely going on the desk of fame here. And this is nice. I'm not going to say that word,
Sjors.
but that is very, very cool. I don't even know what this is. This must be new. Oh, look at that. Oh boy. They have surprised me with a little extra. Exciting new kits with few parts and tons of fun. There's salt flats. Okay, so it's like it's a flat face with a sign. Cool. And I saw Dan over at Diecast Dude did this one, the barn find one, and actually one of my builds, the world's most expensive custom, is in there. The 63 Corvette I did a while back when I did the world's cheapest and the world's most expensive diecast customs, and that was a fun challenge. So look at these. Smell that laser cut goodness. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do some things with this. Incorporate that into the build. Look at that. The graphics are incredible. These are, you know, very, very well done. Oh, that's fun. That is fun. Just beautiful graphics on this. You know, it's worth the cost of admission just to look at this stuff. So, this is the one that I asked him to send. And I had been looking into this, and it was actually kind of hard to get over here in the States, so I was thrilled that he actually had one to send. So, it's called Workshop. Ready to customize diorama kit. Alright, serious fun. Again, the experience on this is just wonderful. Chef's kiss on this. You know, it's about the Sjo-Cal Technicrats.
Sjors.
Alright, so we got our workshop graphics instructions here. I say graphics because I can't get over how great these graphics look. I mean, top-notch stuff. Alright, so we got like a little lift. We got a loft. We got a sign. We've got tabs to have the door at various stages of open and closed. You can add a little glue. Oh, it's got a little toolbox in there. Oh, man, a little tiny car. What's that? If there's anything I love more than models, it's models in my models. Alright, so we got this. This is the door. So this is cardstock. So this is all flat. There's no embossing there. There is die cut little pieces in here. So these would be the, I guess, where the windows would go on the door. And it does have a bit of a I don't know if that's from the... No, that's just from the cuts. I was going to say, is it hinged? But no. So, that's very simple. I like that. And these are available just about anywhere. I saw that there were locations on his website all over Europe, and now they're becoming more available in the US. Man, just love this setup. It's like the paper, like this feels like an experience. Just opening the box. Oh, and look, I got a letter. Hi, Chuck. Here's my kit and a little extra. Thanks for keeping the diecast community alive.
Sjors.
Well, that was very kind of you. Thank you. I don't know if I'm keeping it alive, but I would like to think I'm helping. So let's help each other and get to the breakdown.
Okay, so the first and most obvious step is to, build the garage. And then add some accessories that I have kicking around in all my parts drawers. Make some unique graphics for it. And I felt like, as a diecast customizer, it should include a custom diecast. I loved the arcade cabinets, and I wanted to incorporate at least one of them into this garage build. I also wanted to add some vegetation, because I have yet to be at one of these garages where nature is not trying to claw its way back through whatever is going on at that garage. And, of course, weather everything. Ready? Punch that subscribe button. Let's boogie. First, I gotta say, I do appreciate a modular design, which this had, so you could have the door on either side of the garage if you wanted the parts were identical. I thought that was very clever. I did a test fit of the workbench. I, again, love that little tiny car model. So cool. The fences are also very well done. Each one has its own little unique imperfections, and you can put them however you want. They all fit the same way, so that's another way that you can make this kit your own. I was sure I was going to lose that tiny, tiny car, but unfortunately I didn't. And since this was my 64th build, I painted it light blue in honor of my 64 Valiant, which was originally light blue when I got it. I will point out that this kit does not come with any clear pieces for windows, and I was originally thinking I would do windows for it, but as I got into it, the more I realized I kind of liked the simple style of the kit, and it felt okay that it didn't have windows because first of all, I threw out the garage door because I could see why someone might want that, but no matter how I put it on there, I was not happy with the way it sat, and it just looked like a paper garage door to me. So I ended up going without it. But because this kit is a little bit more on the stylized side, I felt okay leaving off things like the door and the glass, and just kind of going with the general vibe of a cluttered garage. I airbrushed everything in rusty primer. I wanted the inside to look almost like kind of a polished concrete, which you would frequently see in a shop like this. Whereas, of course, the outside concrete is going to be a lot rougher. I added some dark gray shadows in the areas where there would be heavy traffic or spills and just years and years of use built up on the concrete to the point that you can't get those stains out. A lot of garages have a strip of metal in the ground at the garage door base, so I imitated that with some German black brown. I ended up using the German black brown a lot on this kit. So anywhere that you see a dark color, just assume it's that, like these fence posts. My first diorama I built, I used yellow stairs from a Christine diorama, and I've just always liked that look, so whenever I do stairs, I always see them as safety yellow. I thought it was really clever how they designed this kit to all be one size of wood, but to get thicker elements like the stairs, you just stack them all together. In hindsight, I should have used wood glue instead of a CA glue, and they would have given me a little more time to set them properly and have them better aligned, but it sits so far back in the diorama that it's really not noticeable. I found some old cast resin and 3D printed and leftover parts from other dioramas that I tore apart, and some green light accessories, and just kind of went over them with chips and rust and shading. I really like the skirter piece that came with the kit. Another thing that I didn't expect to be in there, and I just thought it was really cool and adds a lot to the kit. What I did find interesting, and this is one tick against this kit, is that while there was inside embellishments on the back wall, there weren't any where the door was on the inside. So it was an easy fix. I just broke out a ruler and traced the door around the window for me to paint in later. The loft support beam I went over with some ivory white color, just a little bit. I wanted it to look like more painted chipped off than there was actually still left on the post, which is a frequent thing that you see in industrial buildings like this. I had this leftover Matchbox Dodge Daytona hood from a build I did for Diecast Heroes, and I thought it was perfect material to be some wall art. It just needed a little chipping and weathering. There's a little tiny signpost that goes on the outside, and it's got some writing in Japanese embedded on one side, but I decided to add my own graphic later, so it didn't really matter. With a project this big, I kind of just went by color in my process and just said, okay, well, I've got off-white out, what can I do that's off-white? I've got German black-brown out, what can I do that's black-brown? And so you'll see I tend to go back and forth over colors on stuff, and that's because I realized after I painted it a certain color, I wanted it some other way. This is certainly the largest build of its kind that I've attempted before for this channel, so I was really self-conscious about the process. But in the end, I just had fun and painted things the way I saw fit as I was doing them. The roof had a lot of opportunity to it. I wanted it to look kind of like a mildewed tar paper roof. And then I went over individual panels with some Army Painter shaders and toners, like strong tone, green tone, camo tone. And while I had each toner out, I went over several boards in the fence. The Tamiya panel liner got a little wild on me. I was not expecting it to wick as much as it did, but I'm still getting used to working with MDF, and while it initially looks like I was ruining things, it was very easy to clean up with a cotton swab dipped in thinner. And the parts that I wanted to stay stayed exactly the way I wanted them to. So in the end, I was quite happy with the result. The concrete was so rough, though, that it did pick up some strands from the cotton swab as I went, so I dabbed the whole thing with a piece of masking tape, and that took care of all the extra fluff. The panel liner came in great for the areas that I wanted to stain, like the grease around the lift and areas around the drain where fluids would accumulate. I wanted to simulate some unevenness to the floor to make it look like there was a slight tilt towards the drain area, and then dabbed almost all of it up to keep the effect of oil leaking nice and subtle. I used strong tone in a lot of the high traffic spots, like where the sink would end up and in front of the door, to look like dirt and detritus that would gather in areas where feet were constantly walking. I was really not sure what this upper loft would be made out of, whether it would be wood or metal. I just kind of went with a reddish brown. I went over the German black-brown posts on the fence with some streaking rust effects, and I was very happy with the results. So make those look like rusted metal, and then go over certain areas of the build with rusted metal. And the streaking rust effects has a very nice translucent effect to it, so you can see a lot of the stuff that's underneath what you're painting. And that's where the combination of chipping with the black-brown and then adding that rust effect really shines, because you can have areas with just chipping and areas with rust, and it blends together almost seamlessly. This was a new discovery of mine. This is the Ammo MIG Dirt Filter, and boy do I love it. It is fantastic. It's weird because it has almost a purplish look to it when you get started, but it really quickly blends into a dirty gray look that really incorporates that look of dirt and grime that builds up on things. And I will definitely be using it in a lot of my future builds. I was thrilled with how it worked. I used some engine oil stain enamel in areas where I really wanted it to look like oil was dripping. And it gives it a little extra semi-gloss look that makes it really look like oil that's been set in. Once everything was dry, I went over it with the dark brown panel liner by Tamiya, which I tend to use more frequently than the black panel liner. It just looks more natural on a weathered build. Another detail I really liked was this little electrical box. I thought that was a nice touch. Alright, that's enough building. Time to fire up the old white toner printer and print out some graphics. To create the graphics for the arcade cabinets, I just stuck them on top of my flatbed scanner, scanned them straight into Photoshop, and then took the scans and made them the same size as the measurements of the arcade cabinets. And then it was a matter of just finding cabinet art that I liked and making it fit. Definitely didn't spend hours doing that. More on that later. A lot of the garages like these that I go into, the residents of the garage seem completely opposed to having any bare space on the wall at all. So I printed out a ton of movie posters and safety posters and signage and sponsor logos and just about anything I could find and turn into some kind of wall art. It also helps give an illusion of filling the space, so I could get away with putting less stuff in the garage and still have it look really full and cluttered. Another thing that kind of bothered me was there was no doorknob. So I grabbed this little yachting delightful van, snapped its axles off, and with a few quick trims, I had 2 doorknobs. That van will be coming back later. Alright, it was finally time to accessorize. I had some plaster cast crates. I had this really cool Jeep hood from, I think this is a Road Champs Jeep that my brother and I had way back in the day. That was one of my first cannibalized parts for one of the early custom diecasts that I did. I can't remember which one. This shelf and the tires that are on it came from AliExpress. I've done some videos on this channel documenting my experience with those, and if you haven't already gone on AliExpress and ordered yourself 100 rubber tires for $5, do yourself a favor and do it. It is a fantastic way to clutter up any scene that you want for super cheap. One of the benefits of living in Florida is we are never short of lichen and moss. So I grabbed some from outside in my yard, and thanks to Max Porter, who suggested on my Stranger Things build that I soak the lichen in a watered down paint base before I tried painting it. And I did that and got this really nice Spanish moss green, then made a white glue and water mix, and then started slamming it anywhere I thought needed some vines. The trick is to make sure that it lays as flat as possible. That adds a lot more realism to it than if it's sticking off the wall at a weird angle. As I'm placing things in the garage, now is as good a time as any to go back to those arcade cabinets, so let's see how those came together. There are 3 different cabinets in the set. One is a single-player cabinet, one is a double-player cabinet, and one is a pinball machine. Fit is straightforward enough, and they are pretty generic. I appreciated that they came with little grills in the back to imitate where the ventilation and the access panels would be. There are no joysticks, so you will need to add your own if you feel the need, or add something else, as you'll see what I did later. Again, the graphics weren't really a problem as long as you know how to use a flatbed scanner in Photoshop. Fortunately, classic arcade cabinets are actually very easy to find graphics for, as a lot of people sell the replacement decals and they just post the actual graphics online. But they do it in low res, so you can't print the full-size version, which doesn't matter when you're printing in 1/64 scale. Frogger and Outrun were 2 of my favorite games to play in the arcade as a kid, and the larger console seemed perfect for an Outrun cabinet. Again, the shape was slightly different, but with a little brushwork it was very easy to make it all blend in. For the pinball machine, I opted for Back to the Future. It's not really a game that I have much nostalgia for. There wasn't one near where I was at, but it's a really cool cabinet, and it's car-related, so I couldn't resist. Decals went on easy enough, and with a little drilling and a spare steering wheel from an older build, I had an Outrun cabinet. I went over everything with some Microsol just to make sure that the decals set in properly, and some Stuart Simple Mirror Chrome for the legs of the arcade cabinet. And with a little craft glue, it was time for the Outrun cabinet to find its place in the garage. Boston Implement used to sell these really cool photo-etched tools in 1/64 scale. They still sell them in 1/50th, but they haven't had the 1/64 scale in a while, and I hope they bring them back, because they are perfect for decorating workbenches. I felt the lifts were too clean, so I did a lot more chipping on them, because obviously the paint would lift off after years of lifting cars up and down. Everything still felt a little clean, so I added some city dirt pigment here and there to simulate the accumulation of dust. I also added some moss deposits here and there because life finds a way. I had a real hard time getting this loft to stick to its post. I'm going to call operator error on it. But to cover up the CA glob of mess that I used to attach it, I just used a little bit of tissue paper, dipped in white glue, and then painted it light blue to make it look like a tarp hanging over the side. And a few more final placements of things. It still felt a little clean up top, so I added some washes and some panel liner. and some more dirt filters and washes around the edges of the shop yard where dirt and grime would just get pushed to the side and stay there. Alright, I was feeling pretty good about the interior, so I put everything together to work on getting the final test fit, and then it was time to dirty up the outside. So with a little watered down glue and a cotton swab and help from my 5-year-old, we started sprinkling some light colored ballast around to simulate small rocks and gravel. This is another part of the project where it starts out looking really bad, but you just have to trust the process and see that it all works out later. Another thing that I wanted to try out on this build is some new stuff I got from Ammo Mig, and I got it in a few different colors, and it's called Moss, and it's really just a really fine flocking, but it does do a really good job of simulating very small leaves in the scale. Just add on a little glue and sprinkle away. Again, my 5-year-old assistant loved this part, sprinkling moss all over the place. Once everything was dry, I took the back of a swab and scraped off the gravel from anywhere that I didn't want it. Because I was using craft glue, it was very easy to scrape it all away. And then I used some asphalt pigment to simulate years of tires driving in and out of the garage. And that was a good opportunity for my assistant to learn a little bit about blending. I think she did a great job. I thought the Spanish moss color looked cool, but it wasn't green enough to contrast with the vines. So I used this tropical moss, and it did a nice job. I took some more of that dark pigment and went over everything on the edges just to blend it in, and it really did a good job helping that gravel blend in with the ground and feel like it belonged there. And while there was still a tiny bit left on it, I went over the roof a little bit, and that helped add some variance to the flatness on the top. I felt like the area around the drill press was a little too clean, so I took some actual die-cast filings from drilling these cars and sprinkled it around the base of the drill press. Feels a little more authentic to this kind of shop. These tufts I got on Temu, and you might have seen them on my Temu versus AliExpress video. I think these were like $2 or $3, and I think absolutely worth it for the instant weeds that they add. I took one of the larger pieces and trimmed it, and that made it real easy to butt the weeds right up against the fence and make them look like they're growing in through the cracks. These tiny leaves I also got on Temu. I think they're from seed pods or something. They feel like they're an actual organic thing, like they're not punched out. They are dyed, though. They have them in a whole bunch of different colors, and these orange ones really look perfect for dead leaves. They're a little on the large side for 1/64 scale, but they do look a bit like sycamore leaves, which would be an appropriate size for this build. Hey, remember that Yachtming Delightful van? Let's do something with it. I really like the design on the side of this thing. The combination of 70s graphics and awkward English translation were just too good to mess with, so I decided to work with what was already on it. I gave the whole thing a shot of Ultramatte coat, and then broke out that black brown again, and then covered up all the actual chips with painted on chips, and added a few of my own. There wasn't really much to do at the base, but I had some extra paint, so I painted it black. A neat weathering trick is to take a shader or a toner and just go over one panel, and that really helps kind of simulate the way panels will age differently, or if something was repaired and the section was newer or older than the area around it. I went over most of the chipped areas with some streaking rust effects, and again, I'm just thrilled with the result of that transparent rust with the ultra dark opaque chipping. Once everything was dry, I got that nifty dirt filter. And because it's not the most accurate casting in the world, I wanted to mask some of that with a little tissue paper and some white glue, but not so much that it obscured those amazing 70s graphics. Also, the wheels and tires are from a Greenlight truck tire set. Can't go wrong with steelies and hubcaps. Of course, like many vehicles sitting in a shop yard, this one's been there for a while, so you know it's got some vines growing on it. And once the tissue paper was dry, I painted blue over it, and went over that with some blue shader to add some shadow and variance to it. And once I was satisfied with the bodywork, I broke out the panel liner for some sweet capillary action. Once the shader was dry, I went over it again with that dirt filter, because, can you blame me? It looks amazing. And finally it was time for just a little more craft glue and some moss sprinkling. Tracy helped with the final application of a little pigment just to cut down on the gloss of the tarp, and some extra greenery for the vines. I opted not to glue the van in place, just in case the eventual owner wanted to put something else there. But I did make sure to add a few leaves sprinkled on top, and then I added some dark brown sawdust, just to simulate smaller leaves and decayed vegetation. Once the leaves were fully attached, I went over a few of them with that brown panel liner, just to tone a few down and make them look like they're starting to rot. And I put a few on the roof, because why not? I used some Stuart Simple Ultra Black to cover the areas that you're not supposed to see. And then it was time for the decal and the number. Build number 64 is done. Again, I want to thank Sjors for sending this to me. It was a delight to put together. It's certainly easy to nitpick on little things like there not being any glass or the lack of an inside door edging, but for about $40, I think it's a fantastic kit and definitely well worth your attention. They are a little tricky to buy in the States, but there are places like TJ's Diecast and Tom's Model Auto, who is also in the Netherlands, but ships to the US fairly easily. You can find where you can buy this and many other fantastic kits over at Sjo-Cal Speedtoys.com, and there will be a link to that in the description below. While we're here, a huge thank you to our patrons who support Diecast Media Network, especially our executive producer level patrons, WB Video Geek Productions, First and 64th Customs, Donald Rashik, and of course Mr. Twice Diecast. And a very special thank you to everyone who likes these videos, shares them with their friends, talks about Diecast Breakdown with their friends, because it's really helping grow this channel. We're thrilled with how it's been growing recently, and we can't wait to see what's ahead. And we've been getting so many great guests on Diecast Breakdown, and all of that is because all of you amazing people are showing the Diecast Media Network is worth people's time and sharing it around and helping it grow. So thank you so much to all of you for that. Alright, well now that this kit is done, I can officially say that my brother's birthday present is also done. So happy late birthday, Justin. Hope you like it. For those who don't know, Justin does all of the graphics for this channel and all of the merch as well and runs the merch store. So be sure to check that out when you get a chance. And while you're down there, click the subscribe, like, share, all that fun stuff, because again, it really helps grow this channel. As always, I want to thank you for coming along with me for the ride. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.